Instant reaction time. The College Football Playoff Committee released the very first of the CFP rankings. Where were they right? Where were they wrong? Or were they wrong at all? That's what we're here to discuss. If you're brand new, welcome on into the channel. My name is Cole Thompson. I'm a radio show host based in Houston, and I talk college football daily. I talk NFL, MLB, NHL, NBA, but I love talking college football. If this is the type of content you enjoy, this is the channel made for you. So subscribe down below, leave a thumbs up on the video. Tell me who your top 4 teams were. Make sure that you also tell your friends, your family, your sister, your brother, your enemies, mortal foes, your pastor, the drunk guy passed out in a Publix parking lot on game days on Saturdays about this channel. Because if we get to 1,000 subscribers by November 15th, I will shave my head live on air. 15 more days. We have 3 live shows a week, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. You're not going to want to miss out. Hit the subscribe button, and let's talk college football. So, CFP released their top 4 teams along with the whole top 25, but let's just go with the top 4 right now. Ohio State comes in at number 1. Georgia, number 2. Number 3, Michigan. Number 4, Florida State. And then we have, of course, Washington and Oregon at number 5 and number 6, respectively. My first thought when it came to that was, crap, here we go again, 2014, where the Big 12 is going to be left out. Because remember, that was the year that Baylor and TCU finished 5 and 6. And everyone was complaining about they belong in the dance. They belong there. And then, well, they didn't because they didn't have a conference championship game. I digress from that, not the point. The reality is that all this is going to be handled in less than a month. We are going to have the final 4 teams, the correct final 4. So I don't really look that much into detail about what we saw tonight because everything will work itself out. Primarily at the top and then all the way trickling down because of how these rankings do go. But let's go ahead and answer the question. Did the committee get it right? At number 1, Ohio State, based off what the committee is looking for, yes. Right now, they got it right. Ohio State has maybe the 32nd ranked offense in college football, which is bad when it comes to scoring. It's nowhere near the same level as what you had with Dwayne Haskins or JT Barrett or CJ Stroud, or when you had receivers like Garrett Wilson and Jack Smith-Njigba. But you do realize this is still a team that has not played fully healthy since week 4. They didn't have Travion Henderson until last week's win over Wisconsin. They've been without Emeka Egbuka, I think, 3 weeks now. They still aren't playing up to a same standard because of what they've been missing. But defensively, this is where they've really turned the corner, and it's a huge feather in the cap of Jim Knowles and Ryan Day. They're number 2 in scoring. They're top 10 in total yards allowed. They're one of the best teams when it comes to third down conversion rate. They are hitting their stride on that side of the ball well in advance of where you want them to. The offense will come around. I don't worry about that. I think the offense at some point is going to be clicking on all cylinders, mainly because of, think about it for a second, a healthy Travion Henderson behind a stout, astute offensive line, pretty good. Then you add back in Emeka Egbuka, hard to argue with those results, plus Kyle McCord, if he continues to improve. Now, that's the main thing. He's got to improve because of games against Wisconsin, 2 interceptions, that may be doable. It won't be doable against Michigan. And it may not be doable down the stretch either, right? But the schedule does play well for them. If they just continue to win, they're going to be in the dance, no problem whatsoever. They also are the only team in college football with 2 wins over top 10 opponents. And the playoff committee made it clear these are still 2 of the best teams in college football by their standards, where Notre Dame is still in the top 15 and Penn State is number 11. So they're just on the outside looking at the top 10. You're not going to punish that. You're going to reward it. Number 2, Georgia. I don't have a problem with Georgia being at number 2. I said earlier in my old segment, this was the right call. Georgia needs to be at number 2 because now they are playing like how they should have been throughout the year. Like, we got to start comparing the Georgia of old or the last 2 years to this version of Georgia. But the formula has always been the exact same. Hey, go ahead, start off slow, build momentum. By the time November gets here, nobody's going to kick your ass. And that's kind of what we saw against Florida in the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. They were impressive. And they were so impressive without Brock Bowers. Now you wonder, what is this offense going to look like when we get back Brock Bowers? And here's the good news. For Georgia, they still could end up being the number 1 seed. Anybody out there who's saying, well, Georgia right now deserves to be number 1 because of they've been number 1 and they're the 2-time defending national champions, they got a game against number 12, Missouri. They have a game against number 10 Ole Miss, which could end up being even higher if they win and Alabama, who came in at number 8, loses. And they're going to be playing against a top 15 probable Tennessee team on the road in Neyland Stadium. Those are 3 top potential 15 wins on top of whoever you play in the SEC championship game in Atlanta. That's 4 wins against ranked opponents, quality ranked opponents. And if you do that when Carson Beck is playing at the bells and whistles and really hitting his stride at the right time, you have a good rushing attack and you have a balanced offense when it comes to receivers making plays inside the red zone, and they're able to keep protection up front at the same level, yeah, they're going to be in the running for number 1. So I don't doubt that right now, depending on how we view the schedule, this is not Georgia being pigeonholed at number 2. They easily could get the top spot. Number 3, Michigan. Again, kind of same thing. Like Michigan, I would have had them at number 4 personally, only because of when you think about how this should pan out. They haven't played anybody in terms of the level of competition. Now, what they have done during that span is they have, without question, beat the living dog crap out of whoever they faced. And that's a huge plus if you are Jim Harbaugh and you are this offense. Because so long as you are doing your job against bad teams, this is where the schedule gets tough. Game against Penn State, game against Maryland, game against Ohio State. And 2 of those games are on the road. So if you get those wins, even though we already know Maryland, they're a hit and miss right now. They really are. It's kind of hot and cold, and it's really kind of depressing if we're being completely honest. But you get those 2 wins on the road, and then you beat Ohio State. There's no argument. You're in. And there's the good news, of course, when you heard on the broadcast afterwards, when they were talking to Boot Corrigan, the sign ceiling thing is an NCAA ruling. It's not the College Football Playoff Committee ruling. So anybody who thinks that Michigan's going to get punished, sorry, you're wrong. They're not. They're going to be in if they're good enough. And guess what? They are good enough because they've literally beaten the living piss out of everybody that they played. So good luck stopping this team, one of the best defenses in college football, and certainly one of the best offenses. Now, Florida State. Florida State, if you are a Seminoles fan, here's what you do. Cool, we're number 4. We're just going to continue to climb. That has to be your MO. You can't sit here this morning and say, well, what happens if we lose a game? Well, if you lose a game, it means nothing as of right now because there's going to be potentially a loss for Washington. There's going to be potentially a loss for Michigan and a loss for Ohio State and a loss for Georgia. So everyone could end up having one loss at the end of the day. What matters is who your loss is to. But you can't focus in on that. What you need to do is you need to continue to play the way that you did against Wake Forest. That version of Florida State is not being left out of the college football playoff because it's an offense that's so dynamically sound that they're going to beat the dog crap out of anybody that they play. Defensively, they finally started to turn on the corners a little bit, and that's a good step in the right direction heading into November. And you still have 2 tough games ahead, in my opinion. You go play in Gainesville against Florida, and you still have Miami. And Miami, they're not a great team, but they are a sound team. Sound and great are 2 completely different narratives. But if you fail and you allow outside noise to kind of take over your persona, guess what? This is what's going to occur. You're going to be left out, and you're eventually going to lose not just 1, but potentially 2 games. So your attentiveness has to be on what you do best, what you can control, and what you can control is just winning on out. You win on out, they're not keeping an undefeated Power 5 conference team out of the CFP. Now, 5 and 6, real fast. Washington's got to turn the corner because they very much can control their own destiny where if they win out, you could see a TCU scenario where maybe they are viewed as one of the 4 best teams because of their schedule. They got games against USC. They got games against Utah. They got games against Washington State, Oregon State. And if they win all of those and then lose in Las Vegas to, say, Oregon, you may end up saying, no, Washington and Oregon, they're 2 of the 4 best teams. Like, we have to put both of them in there. What a blessing that the Pac-12 got 2 teams in the final year of its real, true existence. But you got to play better because the way that Oregon's playing right now, you're going to slip up and you're going to falter and fall apart in Las Vegas if you face off against them. And that's the big part, because you can fall apart against USC, you can fall apart against Utah, you absolutely can fall on the sword against an Oregon State team. So your job is to mitigate the flaws that you've had the last few weeks against Stanford and Arizona State and turn the corner in a proper direction before this shit gets out of hand. If you do that, congratulations. You have earned your right to the CFP. And let's be fair. A win over Utah a win over USC, potentially 2 wins over a top 10 Oregon State, wherever they may be ranked, and of course, however many games you just won plus undefeated, you've already earned your spot. There's no denying it. Oregon, they may be the best team in college football right now. The way that they played against Utah in Rice-Eccles Stadium is phenomenal. That's a team that is scary as all hell, that if you go up against on a bad day, they're going to make it worse for you. They're so great on the offensive line. They know how to run the football with ease. They're averaging, I think, like 6.2 yards per play. You have a veteran quarterback who already knows how to handle business in Bo Nix. And this is only the start. It's like when you saw what happened in Seattle. It was a 180 flip. Like, this team ended up saying, oh, we don't want to feel this way again. So we're going to take out our anger like an angst teenager who's going through depression and the mediocre stages of adolescent years and just listen to hard deathcore music and just scream our heads off. We're going to do that to Washington State, and we're going to do that to Utah. And they have. And if they continue to do what they're doing, guess what? They're 11-1. They're going to punch their ticket to Las Vegas, and they may end up being not only the team to beat in the Pac-12, but really the team to beat in all of college football. They're so well put together, and they're so well coached, and it's all a demeanor and a culture standard, and that's what you have right now in Eugene. Credit to Dan Lanning. They've done a great job rebounding off of a very tough, I would say emotional loss too, and they've taken their emotions out on everybody that they faced, and they haven't slowed down since. Here's the part that I really want to get into before we get on out of here real fast. There's a lot of people who are having a problem with where the rest of the teams rank. So perfect example, Texas is in at number 7. Oklahoma is in at number 9. Well, Oklahoma beat Texas, but the problem here is that the strength of schedule is going to be a factor, at least at some point, because head-to-heads do matter. And if you read the College Football Playoff Committee bylaws, they're supposed to matter. But so is strength of schedule, because Texas might have the more impressive win. Texas is a good team, but so is Alabama. And you beat Alabama on the road in Bryant-Denny Stadium, who comes in at 8. The good news is all of this will handle itself out. Kind of the same thing that we talk about when it comes to Ole Miss. They're in at number 10 because they lost to Alabama. So even though Ole Miss has found its rhythm defensively, they still lost to Alabama. So you're putting them behind them, but they still could end up being better because of Alabama has to play LSU. And kind of the same thing goes with Missouri. Missouri right now is ahead of LSU, even though LSU won the head-to-head. So one losses do matter in the sense of the committee, because Notre Dame, in my opinion, is a lot better team of what we've seen consistently than Louisville, but Louisville's ahead. And the reason for that is because Louisville is the much more one-loss team. So there we have it. That's kind of just the way that I put it right now. All this is going to work itself out, whether it be in conference championship games where Oklahoma takes on Texas a second time, whether it be Ole Miss being an 11-1 team versus a 10-2 Alabama team, whether it be Penn State finishing 10-2 or 11-1, all this will find its way into the radar. It's all going to work itself out. The last thing before we get on out of here, give JMU a shot. Just do it. Like, I know the Dukes right now are dealing with the NCAA being morons for not allowing them to be bowl eligible this year, but they're undefeated. Liberty's undefeated also, and they weren't ranked, which is stupid in itself. But those teams have handled their business, and the group of 5 school that ends up having the best resume and record gets the New Year's Six bowl bid. I still believe that the Dukes should wait. I think the NCAA should waive the eligibility process and let them compete, because the defense right now is lights out. Kirk Cignetti has been phenomenal this year as a head coach. I think he deserves to be in the running for Coach of the Year. I think when you look at Troy Calhoun, what he's done at Air Force, they're 25th. Like, Tulane's 24, and I get it. Their one loss came to a top 10 Ole Miss, so that plays a factor into it. All this shit should work itself out, but next time, rank JMU. They've absolutely earned their spot. But there you have it. Top 10 teams in the college football playoff rankings. Number 1, Ohio State. Number 2, Georgia. Number 3, Michigan. Number 4, Florida State. Number 5, Washington. Number 6, Oregon. Number 7, Texas. Number 8, Alabama. Number 9, Oklahoma. Number 10, Ole Miss. It's all going to work itself out, people. Don't get your panties in a wad, especially when you have trick-or-treaters coming your way. Hey, guys, thank you so much for watching that video. Don't hit the X button yet. Make sure you hit subscribe to keep up with all of our daily content found on Just Saying It and anything else that we post on this channel. Bye.